Hello, how are you guys? We'll let people get connected real quick and then we'll get started. Okay. I'm Anna Gerard-Fletcher. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy and Mineral Law Foundation. Hopefully you know what the Energy and Mineral Law Foundation is, but if not, let me give you a little quick overview. We are a nonprofit educational organization. We've been around for a little bit more than 40 years. And we are dedicated to providing continuing education to attorneys and other industry professionals in the energy industry. And so that encompasses coal, oil and gas, and now, of course, we've started to put some focus on programming and renewables as well as the market changes. We've expanded as well. One thing that's important for the law students on the line to know is that we have a mission to support law student education. And so what that looks like is each year we provide academic scholarships to law students at our member law schools. And if you're on this call, you're at a member law school. And last year we provided about $30,000 in academic scholarships. We also have a Schetroma Travel Grant program, and that provides for expenses for law students to travel to our annual institute. And this coming year, our 43rd annual institute will be in Amelia Island, Florida. It's June 12th through 14th, so you'll definitely want to mark that on your calendar and take advantage of the Schetroma Travel program to get there. Both of those applications will go up around the beginning of the year on our website, which is EMLF.org. Like I said, I'm Anna Fletcher. I've been the Executive Director of EMLF for a little bit more than 3 years. And before that, I was an attorney for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I practiced in the Energy and Environment Cabinet, primarily representing the Natural Resources Agencies, so the Division of Mine Reclamation Enforcement and Permitting, oil and gas, as well as the conservation agencies, the Nature Preserves Commission, Heritage Land Fund, and a little bit with the Department of Environmental Protection, which covers air, water, and waste management regulation. Prior to that, I was a law clerk for a state court judge in Kentucky and the circuit that is where you sue the state. So I saw a lot of administrative law, a lot of cases involving state government agencies, and then went there myself. So I'm I think they say super cat, a two-time graduate of the University of Kentucky. My bachelor's is in arts administration with emphasis in theater. So you can see I wandered a little bit to get where I am. So let me just go around and let our panelists introduce themselves. And I will start with David Morrison. If you want to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you work, how you got there.
Thanks, Anna. As Anna indicated, I'm David Morrison. I'm with Steptoe and Johnson in Bridgeport, West Virginia, though I'm a graduate also of the University of Kentucky Law School. I was born and raised in Georgetown, Kentucky, went to undergraduate school at Transylvania University in Lexington, and then to law school at Kentucky. I came to West Virginia because I wanted to work as a labor and employment lawyer, and that's what I'm still doing 40 years later. And it is has been good to me. Most of my work is in the energy field. I think I'll stop there, Anna, for now. Let everybody else introduce themselves, and I'll get back to how I got here.
Sure. I'll throw it over to Natalie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Jefferis. I am with the firm of Peacock and Keller in Washington, Pennsylvania. Originally from Fairmont, West Virginia. Got my undergraduate in finance from Fairmont State University, and then went to WVU for law school. And I've been in the industry, you guys won't say it, it'll age yourself, but I've been in the industry since 2002, so before the Marcellus boom, but that's how it goes. You get old quick.
Tim?
Okay, I'm Tim Gresham. I'm with the law firm of PennStuart and Eskridge in Abingdon, Virginia. I have been there now going on 34 years. Unfortunately, I didn't go to the University of Kentucky undergraduate or law school, but I did go to Morehead State University, if you know Kentucky. But I went to the law school at University of Tennessee, so David and I are enemies forever. But I got to PennStuart, kind of a circuitous route. I was in a little private practice when I first got out. I was hired by the Pittston Coal Company as an in-house lawyer, and I was there for about a year and a half. And like any good coal miner, I got laid off. From there, I like Anna, I started working for the Attorney General of Virginia and doing all of the mineral, oil and gas, coal, environmental, everything that was down on this end of the state. And then from there, I came to PennStuart, and like I said, been here since 1987. So we'll stop there for now.
That's good. So let me go around and just kind of ask you what in law school or what has prepared you for what you're doing now? And I'm going out of order with the questions that I warned you I was going to ask. Keep you on your toes. Let's start with you, Nat.
I will say it's actually my fault, but writing class, like, really should have paid more attention in that class. It is one of the skills that they teach you that you need no matter what kind of a lawyer you are. And I can say I did not take full advantage of that. I had to learn the hard way on the job. So if you get the opportunity, spend some time with your writing teachers or the students that assist the writing teachers and learn how to do it well.
Let me throw the same question over to you, David.
Well, writing is clearly important. The better you write, the more valuable you are. And we have some lawyers in our firm who are just outstanding writers. They make me look smart, which is difficult. And so I rely upon them very heavily. We're here to talk about energy and our energy practices and how we got here. And I would highly recommend that you take energy related courses in law school, because energy is not going away. As long as we need to turn lights on and drive a car, whether it's electric or gas fired, we're going to need energy. And so I know when we're looking to hire lawyers, we have a lot of energy lawyers in our firm. That's one of our focuses. So we look to see what sort of background they have. Have they taken energy related courses? It could be property, it could be environmental work. There are all kinds of energy courses. And the thing with energy law is that it really covers the gamut. It doesn't, if you are a litigator, if you have an energy background, you litigate. If you are a labor lawyer like me, we do a lot of work in the energy field, and having a knowledge of the industry gives us a leg up on people who don't have knowledge of the industry. So I highly recommend that, to the extent that you can take energy related courses, you do so, because it'll make you more competitive if you are interested in working in the energy field.
And I think you make a great point too, David. There's so many different ways to be a lawyer in this industry. So many different practice areas that are a great need and for energy companies, and so many different sides of the ball to practice on. You're in-house or outside counsel, or be a government expat like Tim and myself. So let me throw the same question over to you, Tim.
I will agree with everybody that concentrate on writing. I went through law school, was never on law review. Then I get out and get into the energy field, and I've written 4 or 5 articles now. So, and I had to learn it the hard way. But again, property law is always good. Any kind of administrative law, because a lot of your work will be in that. University of Tennessee was not known as a energy or natural resources school, but we did have an old lease hound who was our property professor, and he taught oil and gas law, he taught water law, things like that, which just fascinated me. I enjoyed those courses more than anything else. So those kinds of things will help. But again, writing, just every chance you get to write something, and once you get out, especially if you're working for old people like us, and you're working in a company for business people, learn to write concisely. Nobody wants to read a 25-page memo when a 2-page will do. So it's very good idea to figure out how to distill what you want to say into as few words as possible.
Yeah, great. I'd put a plug in too for the importance of beginning to build your network in law school. Your classmates are your first networking opportunity, and it'll just continue to build as you grow professional connections outside of law school once you graduate. But starting now and the era of collegiality and among your classmates, I think it's important to cultivate and to look at them as your first connections for your career path. Certainly, I know about this job because of a former law school classmate. So it certainly has benefited me even a few years, we'll say, down the road after law school.
And just remember, you don't know who the judge is going to be. You may be sitting next to a judge. So if you're mean to that person, you don't want them to remember this later on when they're judging your case.
That's so true. Let me ask you to talk about what you enjoy about your practice. 1 or 2 things that really kind of stand out to you as what you like to do the most about your day. So let me start with you, David, because I know you've got to have another call soon.
Yeah, I do apologize. I have to leave. I have a 5:30 that I've got to get to. That just came in today, so I do apologize for that. What I enjoy about labor and employment work is that people do the craziest things at work, and I'm just entertained. I mean, you get some of the craziest factual scenarios to deal with, and I could, and in fact, I've decided when I finally hang it up, I'm going to sit down with my dictaphone. I'm old. I do use dictaphones, and I'm going to dictate a book on just story after story after story, because it's just, the whole thing's entertaining. And but I enjoy that. What I enjoy working with employers. Most employers want to do the right thing, contrary to perhaps the popular opinion, and so they call me when they don't know what to do. What sort of an accommodation do I need to provide to someone with a disability? Is a question I get a lot. With all of these COVID vaccination mandates right now, we're getting buried with questions on how do I deal with this situation? How do I deal with that situation? This person's claiming a religious exemption. Is this accurate? What do we have to do? So just providing day-to-day advice really is a lot of fun. And the stories, I just thoroughly enjoy all the crazy things. They just really do crazy things at work. Nuts.
So David used to tell me this all the time, and you guys should know, we all know each other, so I'll banter with him for a moment. But I had never been into HR's office until the last 2 years I was at EQT, and I had a boss trying to retaliate against a employee who had done something wrong. He had gotten called in, he had gotten written up, but he was giving a different view of the story to his neighbors and his employees. And so the manager kept wanting to take further action. And I'm like, we've already written you. I had no idea how to get this manager to simmer down about something that was kind of really petty. And I ended up sitting in our HR lawyer's office. I mean, I joked that I had him on speed dial for like 2 months because it just kept reemerging. And then I found out that one of our VPs at one point had asked somebody to spin around so you could see her outfit. I was like, well, that was a bad day for him, wasn't it?
Well, just this week, and I won't take long on this, but it's a great story. Just earlier this week, an oral surgery clinic called and said, we're in a crisis. Can you help us? Sure. I mean, what's going on? Well, in today's world, as you know, with COVID, these clinics take people out to their cars. Family members don't come in. Well, this is oral surgery, and this 18-year-old girl had oral surgery, and she didn't know anything. She was just out of it, completely out of it. And they take her out and put her in the wrong car. Well, the old man who was waiting for his granddaughter didn't realize he had the wrong person, and he drove off with her. And they're gone for a few minutes, and the granddaughter of the old man comes out, and granddad isn't there to take her home. So they call him on the cell, and this is a quote. He said, "What the hell are you doing? Call me. You're in my back seat," end quote. So they finally convinced him that his granddaughter was not in the back seat, and they brought that person back. I mean, you would think that the old man would turn around and ask, say something like, "Honey, how are you feeling?" But nonetheless, they do the switcheroo, get the daughter in the right car and the granddaughter in the right car. What was amazing to me was that, among other things, the granddaughter is 5'9", 185 pounds, and the girl who was put in his car initially was 5'2", 104 pounds. So unless the oral surgeon did an awful lot of surgery in other places, you would think that the son or the grandfather would recognize that. But the question to me was, the girl never knew she got in the wrong car. She's so out of it. And her father doesn't know that she ever got in the wrong car. So should we reveal that to him? And I said, absolutely. You don't want to be accused of withholding information. But when I say I have entertaining stuff that comes in, that's the kind of stuff we get. It's just amazing.
That will not be a heartwarming story that girl tells her children about her relationship with her grandfather.
And they called me back after they called the dad, and I said, what was his reaction? And they said he thought it was hilarious. He was screaming with laughter. So, thank God.
Oh my.
Well, folks, I've got to run. I do apologize, but I've got to get out of here. I've got 9 minutes to get there. So I wish I had not committed to this, but I didn't know until this afternoon that I was going to have to leave at 5:30 for a client meeting. So anyway, thank you very much. Good luck to you. And it's always good to see Anna, Natalie, and Tim. We'll be getting in touch soon, I hope.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
See you.
See you, David.
Well, Tim, let me throw that same question to you. What are some things that you enjoy about your day-to-day?
Well, it's a little bit different with COVID since I've been working from home most of the time. I do really enjoy interacting with my partners and associates, and I really do. I've got some really good clients that I've had for many, many years, and dealing with them on a daily basis of discussing cases and discussing what we're doing was always that to me is as good as it gets. Is just the interaction and the times when you get to explain to people what it is that we're doing, why we're doing it, things like that. So it's more just that interaction that we get.
Mm-hmm. Natalie, what about you?
So I would say it's a little bit like David, but I am a property law geek. So
No.
no, not at all, huh, Anna? So it's not only that I've been able to cultivate a career around something that I really love and really enjoy, and there's all these weird situations that come up, but it's really been a winding path from business to lawyer and back again, that's allowed me to do all kinds of things with this kind of basic platform that everything tied into that I was doing. And so I like that I have found my calling and I'm able to use it as a lawyer in a fulfilling career. And I don't feel like, I don't see a lot of our energy lawyers walking around like, oh, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my career. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my career. Where I do it and how I do it might change, but it's great being able to do something that I really enjoy and am passionate about.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you kind of the other side of that coin, which is what's some challenges, one or two things that are particularly challenging about either your day-to-day or your practice in general, or a challenge that you faced and overcome. Be an inspirational story. Let me start with Natalie on that one.
So I would say probably two things, and I'm of a different generation, Tim's of a different generation, but I certainly recognize that I was a female walking into a male industry because I started in energy the day I walked out of law school. Actually, the end of my internship, I was fully in it. And so sometimes getting past that, you feel like an imposter, or getting past the days when it's going to be a room full of boys, as I would tell my husband, like, hey, what's wrong? I'm going to spend all day with the boys. Like, I'm never going to see a female ever today. And that's certainly changed along the way, but there are still times when that happens. But one of the real challenges for me, like right at the moment, is that I've moved out of the business world and I'm reestablishing a practice. And so I'm having to figure out how to cultivate clients after not having to do it for nearly 15 years. So the challenge of not just networking, but making something come of that networking has been a challenge. And I don't really feel behind, but it's just not something that I've had to work at in this way, where bonuses are tied to it, having billable hours is tied to it, makes networking a little bit different for me than it has been over the last handful of years.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I agree. It certainly, when I started, it was not uncommon to be the only woman in most meetings, in most rooms, but there have been huge strides, I think, in the energy industry in the last just 10 or 12 years even. It's definitely more diverse, more inclusive.
So before you start, Tim, I'll tell one story. I walked into an accounting meeting and the whole room was females. And I worked for an oil and gas producer. So, and I got so excited and they all looked at me like, they were like, what are you talking about? Because more of their meetings were female heavy than male heavy. And they had no idea what world I had been living in. So it does depend on, what path you're pursuing and what part of the business you're in. But if you're in the land business, there's a lot of males.
When I first started at EMLF, Natalie was our president and a lot of our leadership was female and our staff was all female. And I sometimes would go all week without having a meeting with any men in it. It was really a very strange experience.
Okay, Tim, over to you. What's the challenge?
Dealing with all these women.
Well, it's I don't know if I've had any challenges. I mean, I can always say that it's idiots on the other side. Having to deal with some people. I don't know of any really down things. There are times anytime you work even if you love it, there's going to be days that you just don't like to do what you're doing. And those days come few and far between, but there are days where it's just like I don't even get up today. But overall, I've been practicing I just realized in the energy industry for 40 years, and totally for 43 now. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'd like to have a little more time for myself. That's for sure. But overall, the work I've done, it's been the varied nature of my work over the years has really made it that I've been able to look at things from different angles. I mean, for a while I was corporate counsel, so everything was the company, and then I went to the AG's office, and now I was persecuting the companies and all that, and having to teach Virginia County judges, that the administrative law was a little bit different than what you thought, what you usually see. And then I came to private practice, mainly in the defense, and it's a little bit different, but you're still dealing with the same people, but just not maybe on a very close basis. But I really couldn't tell you, just some point in my life that I just went, oh man, I hate this. There's probably a couple of moments almost every day where I go, oh, I hate this. But overall, it's I enjoy it. It sometimes it gets a little draining when you're looking at a deadline and it's just like I can't. Oh gosh, I got to find time to get this done. But yeah, it's overall it's been a quick 40 years, that's for sure.
I think you make a good point about the working in this industry. Everybody is a smaller bar. Everybody knows a lot of other people, and you see a lot of the same people over and over. And it certainly is a very collegial atmosphere. Even as a government attorney, people were always nice to me and are still nice to me, even though I'm sure there were times they weren't happy to see me coming. But and this is a little plug for EMLF, is a great way to build up that network and to see the people that you see both next to you at the table and across the courtroom from you, in a different context, and give you the opportunity to build connections. And I think that's one thing that's unique about the Energy Bar is it is a very collegial atmosphere for the most part. Let me ask you, and I'll start with you, Tim. Certainly the legal industry has probably come to this realization a couple decades too late, but there's certainly a lot of focus right now on mental health of attorneys, on stress management, on maintaining a positive work-life balance. And so let me ask you, Tim, do you have any strategies or tactics that you use to try to mitigate the effect of stress, and what have you found for you?
Well, I don't know if there's strategies. It's things I do. I don't have a plan for anything. I try to keep at least one day of the weekend to me or to the family. I'm one of those that lost a family, or at least part of a family, because of the drive to get where I thought I needed to get. So I do that. If I don't have something that's just absolutely have to do, I try to take some time to myself and family and go visit the grandkids and as much as that. I mean, the nice thing that I will have to admit, people used to call me crazy because when we first got Blackberries, if any of you are old enough to even remember those, people said, why do you take that with you? I said, when I get back to the office after a week off, I'm going to have, 100 emails. Now I get that many a day, but 100 emails, and I'm going to have to go through them all and look, 5 minutes while I'm sitting at the beach or reading the paper, I can look there and get rid of stuff. And if something comes in, I can tell somebody to do this, and that's all I do, and it doesn't really take away from my relaxation. So that the technology has really helped, even though I might be on more than I am. It's not. I don't seem to have the stress because I'm out of the office. I'm not thinking about what's going on there. What's happening. When you're first starting out, it's a little bit different because you're the one that people are giving stuff to. So you're the one getting that call. When you're getting to where I'm at, where I'm the one giving it out, it's kind of nice just to know that if that comes in, it gets to somebody that can handle it while I'm not there, while somebody else is not there. So I think the technology is somewhat helpful. Some people say I'm crazy, but I do. I would rather know what's going on and get rid of it, take care of it. Take me 15 minutes than have to worry about it for the whole day that I'm should be enjoying it. So that's kind of how I feel.
I found that too is something I liked about working from home during the pandemic was I could real quick sit down and do something that instead of worrying about it all night, I could just knock it out because my whole desk and everything was all set up in my dining room.
Right.
Natalie, let me throw the same question over to you.
So I think for me, it's really been two things. One is making sure that I exercise and take a little bit of time for myself. I've always been a runner, and when I'm not running, I'm not real happy. So finding whatever that is, for some people it's hiking, for some people it's walking, for some people it's just being outside in the sunshine. It doesn't matter. Whatever that thing is that helps you decompress, really paying attention to when you need to do it and going and doing it. Tom Lane would leave me kind of like Tom Gresham was talking about. I just screwed up your name 3 times, Tim. He would go play tennis while he left me on this horrible conference call with these 2 other lawyers, one of whom was awesome and one of whom was awful. And then he'd come back and we would continue the work, but he needed that, half an hour, 45 minutes away from the office so that he could come back and be at his best. And I took that to heart and made sure that if I could, get out of the office and go for that run and then come back to the office and work, that I did that. I do not work from home if I don't have to. I don't like mixing that. So it's something that I try to do is if I'm going to have to go home late, I'm going to stay in the office. And when I walk through the front door, the work is at the office. It's not with me walking through the door and telling my son, I can't play right now. I need to go do X. I'm there. He knows I'm there. And the other one is taking vacation, even though it sucks with billable hours. It's the family time that is important. And I'm with Tim. I check my emails. I was in Italy and I would turn on my computer, delete the junk emails, forward the emails that needed forward, and I would close it. I very rarely responded to any email, but just knowing things were taken care of and I could close my laptop and be done, took some of the stress off and made it way better when I showed up that following Monday after being on vacation for a week.
Absolutely, yeah, because coming back to 1,000 emails, but half of them are, here's what's in the news today. It's still very daunting.
Still have to shift through them all.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let me ask you, what advice would you give to current law students who are thinking of pursuing a career in the energy field, or just in general? And I'll start with Natalie on this one.
So I didn't tell you guys much of kind of how I ended up where I ended up, but this is the question where I'll do it. So my suggestion is always to say yes more than you say no. And the reason I say that is you never know where the door is to the next opportunity or relationship that you need to propel yourself forward or learn something you need to learn. So I had just graduated law school, started at the firm. My boss, Tom Lane, told me I should go to EMLF. And I said, well, I don't need the credit hours yet because I had just graduated law school. And he said, yeah, but this is where you're going to meet everybody that you're going to practice with for most of your career. So I took him at his word and I showed up at EMLF. I went with him. He introduced me to people. And one of the people that he introduced me to was in-house counsel at EQT. And 4 years later, she called me for lunch. I went to lunch. We had a nice conversation. She wanted a litigator. I don't litigate. I do deals. I do contracts. But she told the land department, the VP of land, I found you a title girl. And so I ended up going in for an interview for a landman position to review title so that we could drill wells in Virginia. And I ended up being at EQT for the next 13 years of my career. I was never a lawyer again. I was always in a business role, which people seem not to understand. But, you know, I went from lawyer to landman to management. I worked in 5 states, 3 different business units. And I loved it. And when it was over, it was over. I mean, it was time for me to leave. And I wasn't really upset about it. I missed a lot of people, but it was time to move on. And coming back to the law has been really fun because I was removed from it. I didn't have to dig into it day to day as a business person. I just called in-house counsel and said, what do I do? But being on the other side of that now is interesting. And one of the ways that I ended up here was Peacock Keller was one of the firms that I used to do work for me when I was in the business. And so as as Anna said, be nice to the people that are in your circle right now in law school. I had a relationship that was a good working relationship. They appreciated me, I appreciated them, and it turned into a job when I needed one. So that's my story. Say yes more than you say no. Go to things that make you uncomfortable. It's okay. It'll work out. How about you, Tim? Piece of advice.
Well, I would agree with that. Find an organization. EMLF is a great organization. If you end up going out west to practice, the Rocky Mountain Mineral Law Foundation was our kind of our father, mother, our parent, and helped us form. And there's some others. Those are always good. It's sometimes it's a little harrowing. As I said, when I got into in-house with Pittston, I was working away. Of course, coal industry was in one of its usual cycles at that point, and I did have a great boss who went to bat for me, and instead of being laid off in May, he kept me on until December, and then it's almost like somebody was out there looking out for me, because when I really realized that, well, I'm going to about have a job for a while, I look in the Sunday paper and there's an advertisement for the Attorney General of Virginia looking for somebody to represent all of the mineral agencies in Southwest Virginia. Well, I think I might be able to do that. So, but then again, I got there and I enjoyed that. It's always nice to have your your closest boss is 300 something miles away, you know, so really makes for a, well, you learn, that's for sure, you learn. But you know, and then it's you know when it's time to leave that. I was getting a little started hearing things like, well, we don't want you living in Abingdon anymore. We want you living in Big Stone Gap, which if you know Southwest Virginia, and my wife at the time, when I mentioned that to her, I asked her, well, how much will I have to get if we have to move to Big Stone Gap? She goes, I'll see you on weekends.
I would tend to agree with her, Tim, having spent a lot of time in Big Stone Gap.
Well, there's some worse places, but then when I was with Pittston, one of our outside firms at that time was PennStuart, and made some, you know, I had some relationships with them, and one day one of the attorneys asked if I'd think about coming to work for them, and so I thought, talked to the wife at the time, and I said, yeah, you know, you're going to be in Abingdon. That's great, you know. So you know, looking out for those opportunities, because and also just being, I think, being flexible. You might, you know, you might want to do one thing. Yeah, I'll give a story about my my youngest son, who didn't go to law school because of me. He wanted to be a sports agent, and so he got it. You know, went to Marquette University, and then ended up in Miami. My brother-in-law lives there, and got a job, which is, you know, pretty amazing by itself. And it wasn't anything to do with sports, and he's loving it. And he, you know, it's pretty much kind of what I do, you know, kind of a defense firm, and he loves it. So you know, sometimes you come out thinking you want to do something, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But you know, just be flexible. You know, there's always going to be something you can do that will bring in your interests and make it interesting to do. But yeah, that's just I don't really have any, you know, wonderful pearls of wisdom to look out for. But no matter what you want to do in the energy field, even if you want to be, you know, on the other side, if you want to work for the environmentalists, you need to know the industry. You know, that no matter what you do, you need to know what it is they do, how they do it. One interesting thing, we got an email the other day. One of my partners, and of course we've pretty much been on the energy producer side for all these years, and he asked, because there was a question about putting in some large scale solar panel, you know, solar farms and wind farms and all. And he sent an email to several of us, and he said, have we been on the side of the landowner or the side of the energy producer? We didn't really know, but you can kind of see that there's a big interest there, because many times those landowners are not Joe Smith that's got 10 acres. They're, you know, some big company, you know, some big land company that's got acres and acres and acres. So you know, those can result in some interesting what's the word, relationships, if you will. So and those just some of the things to think about is you know, having the knowledge can take you in different directions. Having the knowledge of the energy industry, natural resources, can take you into a company, into a law firm that represents companies, or into attorneys and positions that you know, may oppose some of those. So just, again, be flexible.
Yeah, I think what you're hearing probably from all three of us is that, you know, we've done a variety of things, and the first job you have coming out of law school doesn't have to be your job for forever. You know, certainly that, I think, was the conventional wisdom for a long time. You get out, you go to a big firm. That was certainly what they told me in law school. I remember our career services person, when I said, what about like working for the government? She said, well, I can't really give you information about non-law jobs. But certainly I think taking advantage, saying yes to different opportunities, and you don't know what you'll be interested in 10 years from now. And in the energy industry, is so technology heavy that there's technology that isn't even invented yet that in 20 years is going to be a big part of your practice, maybe. And I think that's one thing that's very exciting about this field. The other thing I would say too is reach out. Tim mentioned to get to know all the different facets of the business, and people are always excited to tell you about what they do. I know that it was very easy for me to say, hey, I'm interested in, riding around in the truck with this mine inspector all day and just seeing what the whole deal is. People are very excited to tell you about their job and to tell you about what they do. And that's true too with attorneys. So if you see an attorney who's doing something that you're interested in doing, reach out and see if you can get coffee with them, or see if they'll let you pick their brain for a little bit. And, certainly EMLF members have shown me that they're extremely willing to do that. And feel free to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in practicing law in West Virginia. Do you know anyone I can talk to? And I'll say, yes, I know many people in West Virginia you can talk to. And certainly I've been able to hook some law students up with some people to talk to, and don't be afraid to do that. Lawyers are happy to talk about what they do just as much as everybody else. And let me go ahead and open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions, and while you're thinking about, maybe if you do and you don't have to turn your camera on or mic on, you can type it in the chat if you want. I've got the chat open. But let me just remind you, we do have those great scholarship opportunities for EMLF, and in particular remind you about the Schetroma Fund, which provides travel and lodging and food and all the good stuff for the Annual Institute, which is June 12th through 14th in Amelia Island, Florida. It's a great opportunity to meet people who are doing the things that we're talking about today, and meet all three of us. I'm just assuming you guys are coming. And
I'll be there.
yeah. Amelia Island's a lot of fun, so that certainly is a plug as well. And if you think later, oh, I have a question I didn't ask, feel free to reach out to me as well. If you don't have my email address, let me just go ahead and throw it up in the chat for you. But it's anna@emlf.org, easy to remember. I really appreciate everybody being with us here today, and our panelists as well. Certainly have had a great discussion, and I have enjoyed it.
No questions? Come on, you guys are law students. You're supposed to be asking questions. Go ahead, Gabriel. Gabriella?
Gabrielle.
Okay.
Hi. So my question might be directed a bit more towards Natalie, because I know she is a WVU law grad and I'm in my third year. And I also would like to practice in Pittsburgh. And so I was going to ask you how you navigated graduating from WVU, but wanting to be in Pittsburgh, and how you kind of navigated that geographical transition.
So that's actually a good question. So I started my career in Charleston, West Virginia with Bowles Rice. When I went to EQT, I was still in Charleston, and that was before the Marcellus. And so my husband and I had started having conversations because my career was going well at EQT. I really liked the business side of things, and their corporate offices were in Pittsburgh. And so I had the conversation with him of, hey, if I'm going to continue to progress at some point, we're going to have to go to Pittsburgh. And I decided there were very few people putting their hands up to even think about going to Pittsburgh. And so I went to my boss and I said, hey, if there becomes an opportunity where you need me in Pittsburgh, I just want to let you know that I'll go. And so it was probably another 6 months after that where the recession hit. Kentucky and Virginia production from an oil and gas perspective was falling, and the Marcellus boom was starting. And so he came to me because I had already approached him and said, hey, if you want, you can have your same job, but we'll move you to Pittsburgh and you can be the manager of the land midstream team in Pittsburgh. And because we had had that conversation as a family already and decided that was what we wanted to do ultimately, it made the decision really easy because I could say on the spot, yes, when do we need to do this? And so, you know, one way to think about it is if you have the grades, I did not have the grades. If you have the grades and you have the resume to go after the job in Pittsburgh, just go after it. If you don't, I would think about trying to find a firm that has a Pittsburgh, you know, office or has some level of relationship to the Pittsburgh area where you can cultivate an opportunity to move up here.
Yeah, it's a
Thank
great
you.
question.
But I don't think the WVU in and of itself has the stigma that it used to have because we're now a ranked law school. When I graduated, we weren't a ranked law school. So you had to do something special to get a job with one of the larger firms in Pittsburgh. And I don't think that's a hurdle you have anymore. Anybody else?
Well, if you guys do think of questions, you know, feel free to email them to me and I can pass them on to the panelists or help you find the right person to answer that question. We'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you guys so much for participating as panelists and thank you all for attending. And we hope to see you at the Annual Institute. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everyone. See ya.
Thank
Bye.
you.